Hey Genderqueer chat. This week's topic is, do you think trans and genderqueer people should be lumped into the LGBTQ acronym? Have you found that your interactions explaining your gender identity with other people under this LGBTQ umbrella have been positive or negative? Do you feel more understood by them in general than straight individuals? So, should trans and genderqueer be lumped in with gay, lesbian, bisexual? Historically, trans people and gender variant people have been lumped in with gay and lesbian, bisexual people. So in a lot of ways, like there's a lot of history about trans people and gay people fighting together. And if you think about people from, sort of the outside who don't understand transgender, would look at, trans women and see them as gay men, or like effeminate gay men. And so they were kind of, lumped into, the gay category because there wasn't much of a separation of, of gender and sexuality, like particularly in history, like in, early 1900s and even, 1950s and stuff. So there was a lot, like, sort of, if you're thinking about it politically, a lot of the fights, fights for the rights and everything happened, they had to stick together because they were already kind of just lumped together. So, why not stick together? And because it's a different fight, fighting for your rights as a queer person is a different thing. That's fighting for your basic rights, but that's different than fighting for, understanding of the difference between, gay and transgendered. And it's kind of, fighting for your rights is more important than, fighting for, recognition of, like, what you are almost. So I think it's been, historically it's been, that's the way it's happened, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And it's good, I think Matt said this, why not, more numbers, more people fighting, yay. So I think in more modern times, though, should we still be lumped into the same acronym? There is a lot of overlap. Like, on the one hand, sexuality and gender are not the same thing, and by lumping us into the same category, it's, in a way, you kind of have to worry about, people understanding that it's really not the same thing. But I think people kind of seem to get that. Like, the majority of, the world, I think at this point, understands the difference between a transgendered person and a gay person. And, but you do, by lumping us together, you do run the risk of implying that transgender or genderqueer or any kind of gender issue is, in fact, a sexual issue, which it's not. So I can understand some people not wanting to be lumped into that category, but then on the other hand, there is a lot of overlap. People, like it or not, people are sexual creatures, and you get to a point, like they get to however old, and people want to hook up. And when you're, transgendered teenager and you've had your whole life, say there's this trans man, 15-year-old kid, and everybody's saying, oh, you're a girl, you're a girl, you're a girl, but he's starting to feel attractive to women, he'll probably go through a bit of a phase wondering if he's a lesbian, and then, or at least the outside world not accepting, even if he gets that he's trans, not accepting that he's trans, will think that he's a lesbian. And there is overlap, because people can help themselves from, putting that together. And I think all this kind of Psych 101 bullshit that people seem to think they can do, and, uneducated people seem to think like, oh, well, he just, or she would just like girls because yada yada yada, or like, people have reasons for all kinds of crap, and people, make up explanations for things instead of seeking out the proper explanations. And I think in doing that, trans and queer people, like gender queer people, are lumped in, like they just are lumped in with gay and lesbian people. So it's why, it's there's so much overlap. Why not, stick together and fight the good fight and all that kind of stuff. So another part of the question is, have you found that your interactions explaining your gender identity with other people under the GLBTQ umbrella have been positive or negative? I haven't actually had a whole lot of people under the LGBTQ umbrella. Like, it's not like I go out and, like, seek out queer people to talk about my gender identity with. Everyone, I don't think I've ever had any negative reactions. I mean, it's a pretty small pool of people that I've talked to about it, like queer people. I don't think I've ever had any negative reactions. I have a memory of hanging out with someone, like 6 years ago or something, and we went to it was a burlesque show, but it was like a burlesque mixed with, various trans performers in between the burlesque shows. And I was with a young woman who is a lesbian, and she was, like, a little bit critical of, all of the trans men that were around, who were sort of hooking up with the, like the dykes. And she was critical of it, and I didn't really like that she was critical of it, but, she was kind of like, well, they're not gay then, they're just, they're straight, like, look at them, she's making out with a man, she's not gay. And it's like, well, who cares? Like, I was just like, who the fuck cares? But she was a little bit judgmental, but that's the only, and not even like really overtly so, like, it wasn't like, she wasn't terribly judgmental, it was just little comments. That was the only, experience that might have some tinge of negativity attached to it in terms of a LGBTQ person dealing with gender, but I haven't ever had a negative experience with explaining my gender. I've had a few experiences with straight people where they just don't, most straight people are kind of, or like most people, like straight, gay, whatever, are kind of interested in, listening to what you have to say, and lots of people try to understand, and obviously unless you've felt something yourself, you can't fully understand it. Like, my stepdad and I were talking about this yesterday about, something else, and I was like, when you see someone having an asthma attack, you can intellectually understand it, even if you've never had an asthma attack. You don't fully know how it feels, but you can intellectually understand that would be suffocating and terrible experience. Not that I'm saying gender, variant C is a terrible experience, but in the same kind of way, you can intellectually understand it even if you don't feel it or have never felt it. So, most people, I think, are typically either they don't care or they're interested. But I've never had a truly negative experience with anyone. I've had a couple of frustrating experiences where I've tried to explain it and people have been just unwilling to open their mind to anything different than what they already know. Like, I remember one time I made a comment about, because there's somebody kept, calling me, okay, you girl, da da da, and I was getting annoyed, and so I said something, and he was like, what do you mean? But you're a girl, and I was trying to explain gender. He's like, okay, but you're a girl. And I was like, oh, just whatever, forget it. But that's sort of like the extent of any kind of negativity, and even that wasn't really negative. It was just somebody unwilling to think very hard about it, or unwilling to sort of open their mind to something different than what they had been exposed to in the past. So, I think that's it. This is really long. Sorry, guys. I guess it was kind of a long question. And I may have rambled a bit, so I apologize if I rambled too much. And I will see you. Today's Wednesday. I'm filling in for Cole today, who's had a rough day, or not rough day, had a busy, I don't know, busy day. And next week I will be on Thursday, and because I've switched with Sid, so I will see you guys next Thursday. Alright, bye.